I find that I'm constantly learning. There's always new things to learn. And I learn so much from the hotel industry. There's always so much to gain from there. So when you get an opportunity to sit down with a hotel consultant who's been working on hotel development for 30 years and have also been working with AutoCamp, Two Roads Hospitality, and so many others, including Marriott. You grab the opportunity, you ask the questions, you learn. And that's what I've done here today. So I'm very happy to share this conversation with you today. Todd Wynne-Parry from Horwath HTL. We talk about the most common barriers to getting set up, unique experiences, sustainability, and key things in the design of a site to maximize income. If you enjoy this conversation and get something from it, I'd love for you to leave a review on whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast. Enjoy! Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley, and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome. This is the business of glamping and unique holiday rentals. Todd, thank you so much for joining me today. It's really great to see you. And I wanted to get you on the podcast because I'm really interested in your background as somebody who has got 30 years in the hotel industry development kind of arena, which for me, I think that we can really learn so much from the hotel industry because glamping and luxury outdoor hospitality is a pretty young industry in as much as that, well, certainly young in comparison to hotels. So we have so much that we can learn. And what do you think about that? Is that something that you believe in as well?
Yeah, very much so. And it's interesting because the nexus of my career was off of a thesis I did in grad school, which was on the market segmentation of the hotel industry in the United States in the 1980s, where you saw the market kind of getting defined in terms of limited service, select serve, upscale, and then luxury. And before then, there was just sort of hotels, and they were at different price points. And the CEOs of the big hotel companies were sort of ex food and beverage guys. And in the 80s, it switched to being ex retail people like soda pop and things like that. Soft drink CEOs moved over into the hotel industry, and the marketing and the sales and the division or coming up with niche products at each price point really came alive in the 80s in the United States. And what then I went into analyzing hotel markets and valuing hotels and things like that, and then got into just working for hotel companies and growing brands. And what I ended up seeing was this sort of hotel business where you come up with a brand that focuses on a particular niche, and then you might build one or two or three of those, and then you franchise that. And that to me is the hotel business. You come up with a brand of a concept of a hotel, and then you let other people's money go build the bricks and mortar, and you make your money on the reservation system or maybe the management in the case of more international scene. And then you go on, and then you come up with another one. And I contrast that with the hospitality industry, which is really taking care of people, whether it's at whatever price point, it's managing people. And that's the part I've always enjoyed. I don't really like the other part. But having been in the industry as long as I have, I've seen brands kind of come and go. And more importantly, what I've seen is sectors develop. So the extended stay sector, for instance, wasn't really a thing. And then all of a sudden it became a thing. And you had Residence Inn by Marriott and America's Best Home Suites. I mean, there's a million different brands now that deal with the extended stay sector, which typically is a larger room, a longer length of stay, and again, at different price points. Another sector was the lifestyle boutique independent sector. And I worked on that very early. I did the first W out of the United States in Sydney, Australia, prior to the Olympics. And, I tell the story that it was that was in 1998. And it was sort of 2014. And I'm at a hotel conference in New York, and I'm on a panel on lifestyle boutique and independent hotels. And the first 20 minutes of the panel were everybody having to provide what they think their definition is of that. And this was 16 years after that first W, and many years since Andre Balaz and Chip Connolly had been doing independent, kind of lifestyle design hotels. And so it just took forever for the market to really understand what this concept was. And as I transitioned my career from that area or general hotels to the outdoor hospitality sector, I kind of wanted to move it along a little quicker, because these sectors, they take a while for, there's always first movers that go in and they figure out how it works. And then there's some people that scale, and the money, the first mover money and the debt follow very slowly. And so what I wanted to do was be a part of this sector and getting it moving quicker so that more funding could come to it, both on the equity and the debt side, so that more people can get outside and enjoy the outdoors, because glamping and outdoor hospitality is all about making nature a little more approachable for people that don't want to trailer a trailer, or they don't want to put up a tent, they don't want to sleep on the floor. So glamping and the outdoor hospitality sector really is a more approachable and sometimes affordable, but more comfortable way of getting people into the outdoors. And that's kind of my inspiration.
And I think for me, that's exactly what I love about it, is the fact that it really does open up nature, nurture, things that people maybe wouldn't have necessarily done because they maybe will have chosen a hotel, they would have chosen a different kind of stay. And so glamping allows them to say, actually, I could do that. That seems comfortable. That seems unique. It seems like an experience. I'm going to do that. That's great. And so not only is it opening that up for new people to experience things that maybe you and I experience all the time. I know that you love your Airstream, and I love camping, and that's kind of why I've got into this whole thing. And yet, they wouldn't have done that. But that in turn, I suppose, makes the industry so much bigger, so many more customers. That makes it more lucrative and more interesting. So you've worked for AutoCamp, and AutoCamp is really doing big things in this space at the moment. Do you think that the reason why companies like that are really kind of getting deep into this industry is because people are so much more interested in having an experience rather than just having a stay?
Well, very much so. And I think I think what happened in the case of the last several years and the growth of glamping products like AutoCamp or Collective Retreats or Under Canvas, or name your scaled or getting scaled brand in the US, is that the product, whether it's near the national parks or around major cities in the outdoors, were really, bad. There wasn't anything really interesting. There's either a crappy motel, in a great location, near a national park gate, or a chain hotel, which is a really bummer of an experience, or super lodges that were just, not approachable by everybody. So I think the glamping movement and those brands really help kind of bridge the gap, where it's actually something cool and approachable and in these great locations. I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine went to the Grand Canyon and spent the day sort of mucking about on the trails in and around the Grand Canyon, and then came back and got to stay at Under Canvas. And it was as if the experience of being on the trail and being outside and being in nature, it never really ended. Even though she might have got from a parking lot and drove over to under canvas, she was still in the outdoors, campfire going, sleeping in a tent, hearing bugs in nature and birds and things like that from the tent. And it really sort of extended the experience, contrast to spend a day in an amazing outdoor, environment, and then go back and go into a, branded, very, sort of antiseptic hotel or something like that. And it just ends the experience right away. You're back to sort of urban reality in your hotel room. Whereas the glamping, it just gets to have this all-encompassing 1 night or 2 nights or 3 nights or whatever it is. You're always in nature in that situation. So, I think that's been really great. One thing I would say, which is interesting, I think for all of your listeners, is that the industry is there's a little bit of a why in the road when you talk about experience. And the why in the road is that different brands and different products, and whether it's someone with an amazing farm and they've decided to do a couple of glamping tents out in the back or something like that, or it's one of the more name brand companies that are really trying to scale across either the US or the globe. The why in the road, which either can take, is that one road is to say, okay, here's the promise. The promise is you're going to be able to be in nature, you're going to commune with nature, and you're going to commune with you and your partner or your family, your kids, or whatever. You're going to have a cool, kind of funky, different accommodation experience, whether it's a tent or a trailer or a cabin or whatever, or a tiny house, whatever it might be. And you're going to commune with nature. I think I said the first one. And you're going to commune with other people that might not look like you. They might not be from the same geographic area. They might not be from the same economic sort of background as you. Whatever, they're going to be different, but you're going to sit around a campfire potentially, or a communal barbecue, and you're going to commune with these people, and you're going to realize that, the heat of the fire sort of melts away differences, and the glow of the fire brings out everybody's similarities, no matter their background. And that's a promise. So that's one why in the road. And these might be uncomfortable moments. You're not dealing with different people all the time in your bubble, wherever you are in your city or your village or whatever. And so this is uncomfortable a little bit for you. And so, but that's part of the promise. Part of the promise, hey, get out there. You're going to go into nature, and you're going to see other people and other cultures and other other stuff. It's going to be a constant learning experience. And that's one of the promises, which is really great. There's another promise, though, another why in the road, which is, okay, yeah, you're going to come into nature, and you're going to commune with nature, and you're going to commune with your partner or whoever. You're going to have a interesting kind of accommodation, again, one of those different choices. But that's it. That's it. You are not going to be with other people and around a big communal campfire. And that's another choice. And some brands are heading down that road. Getaway is one in the US, which is really scaling quite a bit. And all the individual mom and pops, independent operators out there, I think they kind of provide that promise as well. You don't really have to mix with other people. This is your own little slice of nature, and you get to deal with that. Now, that avenue is aimed more at a wellness approach. So it's not that this is about you getting out of your urban environment, letting your cells expand, smelling nature, touching it, hearing it, feeling the vibe of nature and how slow it goes, and how it makes you feel small in this universe. That's a wellness thing, as opposed to sort of, communing with your fellow travelers kind of a thing.
It's really interesting you say that, because depending on the target market for that particular brand or business or location, wherever it is, there's some really interesting behavior that is shown by the customer. So, for example, if I bring an example, building on what you've just talked about there, some people want to go away to commune with people, to, you know, mix with lots of different types of people, and others, they'd rather have like quite a solitude experience. But some, they come away from the city, they come away from their normal life, they go to these places because they've heard it's great, they want to have the experience, and then they suddenly find themselves in a very dark field with only starlight and only nature to keep them company. And I've known quite a few situations, particularly in the UK, where they just suddenly start freaking out a little bit. So, you know, that
Yes.
whole thing of, well, you know, I kind of knew what to expect, but I didn't think it would be like this. And so I think that there are those things that the owner, the host, needs to think through. Like you say, what did they want to deliver as a business, as a service, but also what is their ideal, most likely customer who's going to be attracted to that? What will they want? And it sometimes can be quite surprising what they want, certainly from my experience. What do you think about that? Is there anything that you've noticed about people?
Yeah, you know, a couple of things. So one of the great things that's happened even prior to the pandemic was the demographic shift um, in people who are camping, RVing, and then onto the glamping as well. And the demographic shift, the growth numbers in the Asian and Latino population in the U.S. was a big growth area there, which was great. I think from the Asian perspective, it was glamping really offers that you know, a little more comfort, a little more security, you know, and for the Latin group, you know, they've always been big on family, and this is another way to get out and with family. I think the one demographic that has got me the most inspired, the most excited, has actually been single moms, and them getting out into nature. They know their kids want to go out in nature. They know they want to, you know, do a s'more over the fire or whatever. And whether it's the RVing in a van life sort of camper van, or going to a glamping place, it really allows them to do that without, you know, sacrificing safety, which is a huge issue, and sacrificing comfort, which I think is a huge issue for everybody. And really allowing the kids to kind of, you know, be, you know, running wild and having a great time in nature and getting dirty, and it's okay to get dirty, and you know, have a little play with the fire, which, you know, is got to be safe with that. But so that's been a big demographic shift, which I think has been great. And I know what you mean about people kind of getting out way out into nature and then getting a little bit, you know, freaked out. I anecdotally, there's a place in California that I used to camp a lot with my kids up in the mountains in the Sierras, and you have to drive off road for about an hour and a half, really rough road, to get to this lake that has all these little islands on it, and each island is itself a campground, no bigger than sort of a golf course green, really. And so you have to paddle out. I have a canoe, and you paddle out, and you set your camp, and you're there kind of for the weekend. And I brought my partner there, and a friend of mine brought his girlfriend at the time out there, and pretty much everybody cried when they got there. And it was this mixed emotion of, this is so amazingly beautiful, and no one's here, and it's untouched, and it's just gloriously beautiful, but we're so far away. If anything happens, we're screwed. You know, it's like we're just really, you know, it's a helicopter evac kind of thing if anybody breaks a leg or something like that. So and so they would cry. Everybody cry. They would cry. The kids would go crazy and they'd be happy. But the grown-ups, if you weren't used to that kind of thing, they'd cry. They were literally so scared. Anyway,
I often
that
find that,
happened.
you know, when we push ourselves out of our comfort zone, that's when the most growth happens, both in a business sense and a personal sense. So actually that feeling uncomfortable, a little bit anxious, actually it's probably going
Yeah.
to make the most memories than any other holiday that you've ever had, in my view.
You're exactly right. And it is different. It is uncomfortable, and it's unknown, and you're learning the whole time and whatnot. But I think it's super, super healthy. And I don't need to go on and on about that, but it is really a wellness thing. It really is good to get back and you know, get off of the phones, get off of the screens, and downshift, you know, because nature works at a really, really slow pace. And when you're in it, amongst it, and you're around it, I think you start feeling that a little bit. And hopefully after a couple of days out there, you kind of get it, that ain't nothing happening really fast. Just relax and think about what you're doing and where you are and how beautiful it is or whatever, but don't be rushing to get to social media so quick.
Yeah.
One of the points also you brought up is in terms of, from the hospitality or hotel industry and how people are approaching glamping and outdoor hospitality. It really is important that the focus is on hospitality, not on property management or on the bottom line or all of these things. It's really about developing your site with the heart of an innkeeper. So thinking about, okay, when people get off the main road and they turn into my place, what does it look like? What do they see? What does it feel? Are they downshifting when they come in there? Are they getting a feeling of calm, or are they seeing trash and service vehicles and crap everywhere? Are they seeing the septic area? What are they seeing when they drive in? And then when they're there, okay, what's the experience? Is it a find a code and use that code on your site, or is it someone's there to greet you and check you in and kind of walk you through the basics, and what kind of information is there for them to curate their experiences in the area, all the way through to, okay, what do you, so they were there, and so what do you want people to feel like when they stay here, when they leave? Do you want them to feel like, oh my God, I have to go a million other places because this was really opened my eyes to nature? Or do you want to go, I got to come back here because these 5 things in this place was perfect for me, and so I'm coming back here, and because I felt like this, and this. So I think, looking at your project and looking at your property from the shoes and the eyes of the guest is really important, and then kind of following through on that. Yeah. And yep.
So you actually work predominantly with the bigger resort style business, is that right?
Well, yes and no. I just finished up a project in southeastern Arizona, and that was a couple that had worked in the tech industry for ages. They live in Texas, and they really were looking to get, kind of figure out the next 20 years of their lives, and they wanted to buy some land and have land for some horses and not have a lot of neighbors. They wanted to have kind of some peace and quiet in the next part of their life, I guess. And so they bought 200 acres, and they felt like perhaps providing some glamping on one sort of 20-acre section of the property might be a great income source to sort of sustain their retirement. So they had me go there and kind of suss out the market and suss out their property and to see if it would work. And so together we sort of came up with the best plan for them would be to go build their house and kind of live there, understand how the property works, and understand the local environment, the businesses and the attractions and things like that, and then come back to the glamping concept and build from there. So yeah, and then there are other clients that are sort of the larger brands that are trying to grow, and then investors that are trying to invest either on the platform level or in specific projects or numbers of projects as well. So it's a broad width of clients that I have, but there are some individual smaller players that I work with as well.
So when they are looking, or when you are with them looking at the design of the site and the layout of the site, do you look through the eyes of somebody who wants to maybe, whatever they're setting it up for? So maybe they want a hobby business, maybe it's bigger than that. Do you look through their eyes, or do you try to encourage them to maybe take on the most profitable focus on the design of the site? And what would you say in terms of the design of the site? Are there specific things that can help to increase the profitability?
Yes. Okay. So there's two questions there. One is around the approach, and then the other is the specifics. That's fine. So on the approach, I really try and go from the wide to the specific. So I'll deal with the location, and how that location, sort of what's the drivers in that location, and then how that location compares to other places, in other locations that are out there in the world. And some places, like this particular place in Southeast Arizona as an example, it's not a marquee, it's not Yellowstone National Park, it's not Mont Blanc, it doesn't have a lot of wind in its sails, or the Algarve or something like that. It doesn't have a lot of wind in its sails in terms of people dying to get there. Now there is a national monument nearby that is the next on the list to become the next national park in the US, which will add some oomph to it, but still it's not, it doesn't have the cachet, the cash as other, Napa Valley or the Berkshires and the East Coast. It doesn't have that kind of name recognition that is going to drive room rates really high. So the first thing I look at is the location, and what kind of room rates do you think you could get, even if you're at the top of the market? What could you do in that location? And then I look at the site and how the site compares to other sites in the area, or other sites in other locations compared to their demand generators, how far you are from the entry point to a demand generator, or whatever it is, whether it's a park or a wine area, beach. And so then I get really into the site, and how it would compete, and then what types of markets would work for that. Would it be great for romantic couples, or would it be better for big events, or events, or small corporate events, or what really would be its advantage in that marketplace? So that's generally how the the analysis goes. Now, and then I'll look at guest experience, revenue generation in terms of site planning, and service delivery. How can you elegantly and discreetly deliver great service if you've got that as part of your makeup? So then, looking at the owner or developer, and their vision for the property, I totally take that into consideration. That's, I want to tell them what if their vision is great, or if it needs a quarter turn, or if it's completely crazy and it's not going to work. I mean, I'm very open and honest about these things. But in addition to that, I will provide, sort of advice on, look, I get this is your vision. Here's your vision. That's great. And I'm going to help you try and get to there if it makes sense. But here's, another option. Have you thought about maybe subdividing and doing some, big estate residential, or actually, what if you just did an RV park and did some glamping that's off the side, because an RV park is for this location is going to be much better, or whatever it might be. So I will definitely look at other avenues in terms of, your vision is this, but actually this vision might be more profitable. I'm not going to, dictate what they do. That's obviously up to them. But I will throw out other land use options for them, based on my understanding of the market, both locally and geographically, and regionally.
And in all of that, do you find that there are common themes, or common blockages, let's say barriers to moving forward, that you see people struggling with? Other common things that happen. So maybe, for example, is it getting permissions at the beginning? Is it understanding the market? Is it maybe finding the research and, finding their heart in the business, and really, getting to grips with what they want to do? Is there a thing that happens on that path to success that often gets in the way of them moving forward?
Yeah, and I'm generalizing here about, from small independent operators to the bigger companies as well. I'm generalizing here, but the number one issue is always with the zoning, and that's holding up most development right now in the sector is being held up by the entitlement process, whether that's just the basic zoning, trying to move residential to a more commercial thing, or whatever, will hold things up. And then permitting as well, environmental issues, appeals from local people that don't want any more development. So all of those things, that bundle of that I'll just call entitlement, is the number one sort of break handbrake on development moving forward, or at the time right now moving forward. It will continue to be difficult. The other part is the big three: power, water, and sewage. These issues, I've seen them, where whole septic systems have to be redone, and that's a $500,000 process, and the water's not right, and new pipes have to be brought in from down the road, and that's another couple $100,000 or whatever. That can throw a wrench in the works as well. So those three big things: power, water, and sewage. So once you get past that, then I would say, and this gets down to more on the individual developer or owner level, is really lining up the vision kind of with reality. And this was a point that I came up on that last study in particular, was the developer wanted to do bees and a bee experience, and it's like, totally. I mean, I love bees, and that I've seen it done really, really well. And you've got wildflowers, you can do lavender, you can do all these things, and then you can do honey, and you can sell that to the clients, and people can get involved, in touch with it. But it takes labor. There needs to be a beekeeper, and there needs to be somebody who's there to walk the guests through if they really want to pay $75-100 to have a bee experience, and go in and put the suit on and blow the smoke and get in there and touch the hive and all that stuff. That's labor. So if you're going to hire somebody, great, but otherwise it's going to be you. And they had some other ideas around horse rides and things like this. And it's like, I don't have a problem with that. If you didn't want to do that, that's great. But I want you to be realistic about, who's going to do these things, if the labor isn't there to do it, and can you afford the labor to do it, and so whether it's cleaning rooms or providing a food and beverage experience, these things take labor. And if all of a sudden the cleaners decide, they can't work this weekend because they got this or that, you're cleaning the toilets. And if the cook decides I can't make it for breakfast or dinner tomorrow night, you're cooking the food and procuring the ingredients and all that stuff. So that's probably the third biggest thing, is really just matching up the vision with the reality of what you as a proprietor want to put into it.
Absolutely. And I love that whole bee experience thing that you were talking about. And we were speaking in Slovenia about the bee experience there, when it's actually a spa inside a giant wooden structure that has actually got beehives all the way around the outside. Someone is having spa treatments inside with honey and massaging and everything else, listening to the drone of the bees. So these bee experiences are just huge at the moment across Europe, and I didn't realize in the US as well, and I've never experienced it myself. I'm not too sure about whether I would like it, I'd have to say, but it's really, really good points there, really good points. Have you actually had a bee experience yourself?
Yes. So not to the extent where I'm getting massaged in the middle of a hive. That I'm pretty easy at relaxing. I mean, I usually, if I get a massage, I'm falling asleep like within 15 minutes, and I don't know whether I actually got massaged or not at the end of it. I just wake up and, the masseuse could have been reading a book for 45 minutes. I have no idea. Because I'm out like in a hive. I would be, I don't think I'd be asleep. I don't think I'd be relaxed either. But the bee experience that I had, which is a really good one, Carmel Valley Ranch, at the time was John Pritzker, and in the landscaping, he wanted to have this big hillside. It was an ugly hillside. He said, I want it all to be lavender. And the landscaper was like, that's no problem, but we're going to have to bring some bees in to really pollinate that lavender to make it work. And he's like, great, let's get bees and let's let people have a bee experience. And so they started out, they had a couple of hives, and they had one beekeeper, and they had like a sort of fenced in area, and you would go and you'd put on a beekeeper outfit, you get your little smoke can, and you could go with the beekeeper. Well, actually you had to go bee school first, and you had to sit in a room and get kind of an explanation of how the hive works, how the queen works. And it's all very fascinating. And then you go out and get the suit on and go in, and you lift up a thing and look at the honey and you can taste it and all that good stuff. It's very safe. It's no one's getting stung or anything like that. When they started out, it was $25 per person and they had one beekeeper. Within 2 years, it was $75 per person, 3 beekeepers, and they were pretty much going morning to night all through the year.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And totally worth it. Really fun. Really cool.
That's what I love, when people discover something and experience that the client really wants, and it just helps the accommodation owner grow in their business, in their vision, in everything. And even more so when it's got that sustainability link, because as we know, we really need to be supporting the bees, that supports nature and everything else. And so on that note, how important do you think it is for a business owner coming into this industry to be thinking about sustainability and how it fits this model so well? How important do you think that is?
Well, I think it's really important, and going off of the bees is just one thing. I mean, I've seen salt making as well, which is really cool. Anybody near the ocean can do that. I've also seen, when you probably see, where you have the chef's garden, and then there's a dinner table right in the middle, or a pavilion or something like that, right in the middle of the garden. I think that as a sole proprietor or a small operator or whatever, looking at the ability aspect, right now ends in kind of you can do as much as you can, but either you don't have enough sun for a good solar array, or you don't have enough wind for wind, or whatever. From a power perspective, it really, you're challenged a little bit in what you can and cannot do. From a food and beverage perspective, I think there's a lot that you can do. I think also, when I look at sustainability, I really, I don't want to look at just that quantifiable thing of power, water, using good materials and things like that. I really also want to look at the community. And are you partnering with the local bakery and the roastery down the road? Are you really taking advantage of what's in your 50-mile radius in terms of the providing and the businesses that you're doing? Because I think that, to me, that's probably the most important thing, particularly right now, and what's happened in the last couple of years, and the wakening up that, globalization is great, but boy, putting ships on the high seas, polluting the hell out of the earth. And do we really need to source things from halfway around the world, or can we kind of do it here locally and help out the local communities, and maybe not put so much pressure on the transport side of the equation. So I think it's really important, and I'm optimistic and that the sustainability and the lighter footprint on the earth is kind of a cornerstone of everybody's business model that they're going into. And some just can't do that much. But I always think that you at least need to not greenwash it and say you're doing really well, but just having a constant awareness of what that this goal for you. You're doing the best you can within the context of what you can. Like, I think there's a project in Utah that just has garbage bins. There's no recycling anywhere on the property. You can't recycle on the property. There's just garbage bins, and everything goes into these bins. And a lot of the people staying there is like, hey, this is crazy. Why aren't you recycling? Well, the reality is that they could feign recycling, but there's no service to recycle in like 1,000-mile radius. It's not something they do. They've got landfill, they've got plenty of land, and that's just how they deal with it. And they don't have it. They're not able to do what people in urban environments and other places can do. So it's like, we're trying the best we can, but there wasn't an opportunity for them to do that. So like I say, I think it should be a cornerstone, and there should be an effort at all point in time, but you can only do what you can do.
Absolutely. But there are things that can be done, and particularly around, it's quite interesting what you were saying there about greenwashing. And I've known businesses who have said, yes, we are so supportive of our environment, we're doing all we can. And then you look in the cleaning cupboards and you look at the cleaning products and you look at the shampoo and the conditioner and the soap that they're providing their guests, and none of them are environmentally friendly or sensitive or whatever. And so it's got to go down to that very small level of thinking about what more can we be doing as a business to make this better for the environment. Excuse any background noise. I've got helicopters going over. It's all getting a bit crazy. Who knows what's going on? Oh my goodness. So in the time that you've been working in this industry, huge amounts of time, and certainly since you've been focusing on luxury outdoor hospitality, what are your key takeaways so far that you've made in terms of, a new business getting started quickly? What are your key takeaways?
So, interestingly enough, I've got a lot of clients that have new businesses they're starting, but they don't have a site yet. And so I there's just nothing I can do. I can have a comment about their business plan or whatever, but the people that actually are successful are the ones that just go out and do it. Sarah Disick is a good example of that. She just kind of did it and then grew and learned, and next thing you know, it's under canvas. I think for a lot of people, the analysis paralysis is probably a real thing, and if they've got a bit of land or they've got a plan, I'm sort of more of a mind of just kind of go and do it. For some people that might mean, just kind of clearing some area and creating a site that people could throw up a tent and putting it on one of the many peer-to-peer, sharing economy sort of websites that allows them to do that. You got to be careful with that a little bit. There's some local regulations and whatnot, but just kind of do it, I think. And then, which doesn't cost you very much money at all. And then, take time with those guests and talk to them about what they're doing in the area, what's great, what's bad, what's good, what's working, and where do they come from, and why, and try and glean from them what is uniquely special about that particular place, location, or that particular site, and then build on from there. And I think the big thing is not to get over your skis and spend more than you really should. But once you've taken sort of toll of or taken sort of notes of what's working, what's not working, and as you invest more into the property, you will be investing it with at least the knowledge that you've gained from people already using the property, using the land. I think that's probably my big takeaway.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And so many people, they want to start up and be perfect, be the final service from the very beginning, their absolute dream, their absolute vision from the beginning. And I think that's great if you can, but if you can't, then those steps that you were just describing there of starting a bit earlier and not refining it so much and refining as you go is certainly a way to get up and running quicker, for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think also there's really good people like to know that you're improving, and so if after 6 months you realize, oh my God, we actually need 2 more outhouses or whatever it might be, then the next conversation is, oh my gosh, I know next summer we're going to have 4 outhouses, an amazing bath shower room, and this is our plan for next year, and they know that will be accepted because you've already heard the demand to you loud and clear what you need. And demand always speaks really loudly. It rarely knocks on the door quietly and says, gee, we'd like another bathroom here. They're very vocal, and particularly nowadays. So listening to that demand and then reacting accordingly, and everybody's okay. People love it when you go, oh my gosh, I know we did it with this. We didn't have money to do that, or we wanted to get this going, but next year we got plans. We're going to do this, and so when you come back next year, it's going to be really. We're going to cover off on that one, and that just keeps going, and constantly improving is great. People love that.
Absolutely. And I also think that it's the whole phasing thing, isn't it? So you think of your project in terms of phases, however many phases it might be, but phase one can help fund phase two, and then phase two can help fund phase three. And it's so much less stressful if you know that once you've done that phase, you'll be able to do the next one and the next one and the next one. So rather than thinking about phase five from the very beginning, it allows you to have those steps of increment. And certainly for me, it's a much better way of doing it if you don't have the money up front and if you don't have the skills and knowledge up front. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Todd, how do they do that?
Okay, well, that's great. I can be reached through horwathhtl.com website. And in that website, there's a drop down that is services, and my service, which is outdoor hospitality, is right there, and you can see all the services that I provide, and you can get in touch with me directly through that.
Brilliant. And so what's next for you today? What are you planning today? You're going to go fishing? Because I know you're a keen fisherman.
I am. There's my fish up there. No, not today, although there's a trout stream right below me here. Today, boringly enough, I've got to do my taxes. I've got a few more business calls to do, follow up on a couple of proposals, and then you can see the listeners can't see this, but I've got a ladder sitting right here. I'm staining the frame of some new windows that got put in. So
lots of work for Todd today then.
There's never not a project.
That's true. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Todd. It was really great to meet you a couple of weeks ago, and can't believe the time is flying so much, and I hope our paths will cross again very soon.
I'm sure they will. Take care, Sarah.
Take care. That's a huge thank you to Todd Wynne-Parry. It's amazing when these experts give their time for free so we can all benefit from their experience. I'm sure you want to join me in thanking Todd, and maybe to drop a review on the platform that you use to listen to this podcast. It'll be great to hear your thoughts. I know Todd would appreciate a thank you, and it'll be great to see you here again very soon. So goodbye for now.